So welcome to another war game review from theplayersaid.com. My name's Alexander.
And I'm Grant.
And today we are taking a look at SAS, a Rogue Regiment, from a company called Wordforge Games out of the UK. So this is a new tactical cooperative SAS game. We just got this. This is the big black box version from Kickstarter.
Beautiful, by the way.
Yes. So this is a game that can do anywhere from 1 to 4 players, and you play cooperatively as operatives in occupied France, doing SAS-style secret missions, rescues, escapes, raids, all that kind of stuff. So this is designed by Robert Butler, and I'm pretty sure that this is Wordforge's Games' first original design. Now they have put out a few other games. I think those are like re-licenses of other things. But if that's not correct, please correct me if I'm wrong. So as part of this Kickstarter, or separately, they redid D-Day Dice 2nd edition. They put that out, but that was originally designed by someone else. So I combined the shipping, so I also have that we'll probably take a look at here very soon as well. But kind of all that to say, if you've not heard of Wordforge Games, it's because this is really their kind of first big entry into the kind of wargaming and gaming space period. So World War II, moving your little operatives around, special abilities, unique weapon loadouts, and you're trying to get past German patrols and sentries, secretly take them out, and achieve whatever the objective is for that particular mission. And this black box edition had, I think we said 27 missions in it?
Something like that. We counted them.
There's a bunch. It included a bunch of expansions, and then there's some Kickstarter special ones at the end that they put in for us, which are real nice. But the base game itself had like 12 or 13.
Yeah.
Just that, if you end up having like a retail version of this as well. So there's lots to like, you like to explore. But we played a couple different missions, saw a few different things. So we did the first one, or it was the second one technically, where you have a couple guys and it's just trying to like sneak across the map and escape. And then we did one where it was an infiltration, run across the map and destroy a convoy and then escape. Very different types of missions that were going on.
Which is a good thing, right?
And there's still a bunch of stuff we didn't see as well. So there's a lot of variety within the game that you're getting as well.
Well, we didn't get into any of we did use vehicles, but like their support aircraft, other vehicles, tanks.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah, there's the heavy metal expansion, which has a bunch of tanks in it, a bunch of stuff like that. There's ones where you as the SAS have a Willys Jeep and you're like joyriding around shooting stuff up. That's
on the cover?
What's on the cover? Like you can do that. There's expansions that add like flamethrowers and guard dogs. There's all sorts of different fun bits and pieces that they've kind of put in that you can add or not add, or if you get everything, you've kind of got it all in one kind of package. And they put all of the different rules sections in the rule book, which I really appreciate. So it's not a bunch of stupid leaflets that you've got to
that can be annoying sometimes. It's all in one thing. One of the things I think the game is designed very well for is that each of the missions that we played were very different. They had different focuses. And as we were reading through and leafing through the booklet, yes, there's some that are like search and destroy, but they had different mechanics or unique elements. And then they also assign sometimes special characters.
Yeah, like some of them have specifics, yes.
The first one we played, we had to have the Frogman, right?
Yes.
Didn't we have to use him?
Yeah.
And then, there were about 8 characters, I think. So I enjoyed the variety, and I think that's a strength of this product here, because you're going to buy that box and you're going to get a lot of different things.
And I think a couple of the characters do come from the expansions, technically.
Probably, yes.
And so just kind of bear that in mind. But the variety of those was fun, but also you get what you get on it, right? This is the guy, and he has a fixed loadout. He will have this same loadout every time. He does have a reverse side with a different loadout. So there's variety there. But you see in a lot of these kind of tactical games, I think about something like Warfighter, where it's like crazy customizable, which we love, but I think for a lot of casual players, that setup's daunting. There's
be
like a whole
overwhelming.
extra layer of mechanics to learn with the economy, whereas sometimes you just want a game. Here's my guy, here's my stuff, let's go.
One of the interesting thing about the characters, and I think because we've only played it twice now, you know, we got into the second mission. I'm like, oh, I can't run up and stab the guy.
Yeah.
Right? Because I don't have a knife.
Yes.
And it was cool to have these other guys that had different abilities, but that's a big part of the game. Like, it is a serious part of the game. It is a lot about sneaking, tactical movement, getting in position, and then silently taking out the guards or the sentries. And that was interesting. So I think learning now, I'd be like, okay, got to be aware that I can't do that.
Yeah, get your loadouts with your silent weapons as much as possible. But I think that's one of the really neat parts of this is you have really two big sections to each scenario. You have this stealth section, which lasts for as long as you can keep it going, basically, where you are sneaking around, you're trying to just like stab people, drag their bodies and hide them in the woods. And you will literally do that in the game.
Not fire off your loud weapons like your submachine guns or your sniper rifles.
Because as long as you can keep that silence and that stealth going and just take people out and remove them from the map, the fewer guys there are to fight when you get to the battle phase. And the event deck will reduce your stealth time if you start firing off weapons, like you said, or if you get spotted. All these things were going to contribute to your stealth time getting reduced, but if you can get that going as long as possible, all the better for you in almost every instance in this game.
Well, and the reality, like you said, is it's always going to come to that point. You're not going to be able to be silent through an entire mission.
Yeah, almost impossible.
In fact, in the second one, I thought we did a really good job of being silent the first 5 or 6 turns.
We got a lot of stuff done.
Yeah, and then all of a sudden we're like, oh, you know, we now don't have a lot to do, and we had to kind of change up our tactics and started deciding, okay, we're going to take some pot shots because we want to get to the battle part because that was when the convoy appeared on the map.
Yeah, and that was a really interesting game situation where it was like, okay, we've done as much as we can do. If we keep stealthing,
we're just going to be sitting
we
here.
will get seen.
Yeah.
And we'll be in a bad spot. So let's run up and charge.
Yeah.
And then just kind of proc that battle part of it, but we'll be on the front foot. And that was a really interesting kind of point of that scenario that we got to that you don't see in a lot of games like this, where you're like, all right, let's just go guns blazing now.
Well, and it was interesting because as we were playing it, I thought to myself, have we kind of broken?
I was like, oh no.
Not broken, but like, have we bent the kind of the framework of the entire game?
Is this supposed to happen?
Yeah, and it's like, I think you're absolutely right. Yes, it is sometimes at a certain point. You've got to make that break, and because you are commandos, right? You have enough weaponry to do some heavy damage, but you've got to be in good position to do that. And I think we
had cleared up one half of the map really well, and it was like, well,
we got to go for it. So then the sniper rifles came out, and the Bren guns, and it was just like, the Sten gun, sorry. It was like, let's go. Let's just do it.
Yeah, it was fun. It was a really enjoyable part of it. One of the things that we had talked about is that kind of 2-section part of it reminded me of another game that we've played called Reichbusters, which is a very pulpy dungeon crawler in like a kind of Wolfenstein type situation.
With zombies.
Yeah, it's like German Nazi zombies, and you're like mega superheroes, and it's like, but it's the same thing. You're sneaky, 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 and then the alarm goes off, and it's like run and gun. And this had a similar element to it, but this was in a much more grounded setting.
Yeah,
you're still pretty badass, but it's less sci-fi. But I really liked seeing that kind of game situation again, because it was something really enjoyable to contend with.
Yeah.
When, some games it's like, we're just doing stealth the whole time.
Right.
That's cool, but having that option to like break stealth and just to go for it, that was really, really fun to kind of play around with.
The other couple of games that this game kind of brought to both of our memories, one was Sniper Elite,
Yes.
You know, by Rebellion Unplugged. That came out a couple of years ago.
And that's a very different, that's like a hidden movement game. But it's that sneaking around.
Yep. And some of the programmed movement of the guards and what they can and can't do.
And the asymmetry in your abilities and a lot about timing.
Yep.
There's a significant timing element to a lot of what you're doing in this game as well.
And then the other game that it reminded me a little bit of, probably a little bit less, the patrolling specifically from Orange Shall Overcome, which was also a really good cooperative,
really good game.
World War II based, totally different situation. You're a resistance, not necessarily a commando force, but in that game they had program movement that were triggered by events that would cause certain sectors of guys to move, and you had to stay out of their way because they would force you to go through a checkpoint and you could lose morale and all kinds of other things and ultimately
But you're trying to play around those things or try to manipulate those things so that you have safe passage. And that's the same thing here. You're like, okay, I'm literally going to count to 5 because that guard is going to turn around because I've watched him run this route 3 times.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to make a break for it. You'll do that in this game.
You will.
And it's
cool.
It's really sneaky. It's really cinematic at times. It's really fun to do.
Well, it was kind of funny because many, many times I said to myself, and I asked, why don't we have like a distraction mechanic, right? Where we could, I don't know, throw a pebble or, you know.
In one of the expansions, the French lady, the French agent...
Yes, she has like a costume.
When she has a costume, she can do that.
Yes.
But she has to walk up to them and like start talking to them, which is its own level of nerve-wracking. But you don't have the pebble throwing, unfortunately.
Well, and that's cool. I just thought to myself, ooh, that would have been kind of a neat mechanic to add on or throw into it. But I think in general, the game laid out the way that it is with the program movement of the enemies, the way the event cards work, and then ultimately the alert level. Is that what they call that? I'm trying to remember exactly what they call
Yeah, I think it is.
Alert level. You know, every time you fire a loud gun like a submachine gun or a pistol, every time you don't use like your knife.
Yeah.
Right?
Or the garrote for the French lady.
Garrote.
That's great.
And then that alarm level's going to go up. And you have to manage that. And it's just fun and unique. But sometimes, like we said, you just got to cut it loose and be like, okay, it's time. And that felt cinematic.
And you're like strong enough to do it, just about. It's really fun.
It's not like you're weak. I will say the Germans shoot multiple, most of them shoot at least 2, right? 2 dice.
All the riflemen shoot 1 and everything else shoots at least 2.
Right, and they hit on 3s and 4s mostly, and it's hard not to be hit. So you do have to worry.
It's a game,
about your health.
Duck and cover, keep crouching, hiding behind, running between. And so I think that's, at its heart, this really is like a tactical, very, very tactical game. You would almost expect it to have miniatures in it.
Yeah.
But it doesn't. It's just got nice counters. And
it works fine.
The artwork's great. Well, and it helps to keep the price down as well.
Yeah.
So that was something that if they did like, hey, here's a figure pack, you could do that. That'd be great. But
I think we would definitely buy them.
Oh yeah,
we like miniatures anyway.
But it has that feel about it where you're just moving from square to square, shooting around the sides of buildings, jumping through a window, assassinate a guy in the back, pick up his body, drag it out to the woods.
Yeah, it's a little grim, but yes, definitely. Cool elements.
It's very, and you have all the power to kind of do as much as you can.
A couple of my favorite mechanics in the game were the aimed shot, where you use one of your 4 action points to kind of take a steady aim when you're attacking. That gains you a +1 on your die roll. When you couple that with the range bonuses, if you're within your short range window, you might be rolling your dice at a +2. That's smart, right? Because you're more often than not trying to roll 4, 5s, and 6s. I liked that element, but I also liked the concept of the overwatch or marking your target. That took 2, but it gained you a +2 attack modifier, and it was like an overwatch where...
Yeah, like an attack of opportunity.
Yep, you're waiting for them to come within range, and then you get your attack. And I think at the end of the second mission, I was kind of milling through that, and it worked significantly better than some of the rolls I was making.
Yeah, you're rolling taking a pot shot with a pistol, But if you're sat in ambush, they run past you, you shoot them in the back. Again,
+2/+3.
the feel of it feels
Yeah.
great. It feels like a almost like a spy movie in a way.
It reminded me, another game that it reminded me was Space Hulk. If you remember in Space Hulk,
yes.
you can set up, I'm trying to remember what those
That's
guys.
literally Overwatch, yeah.
But it's like Overwatch, but that's always fun to do because the gene stealers are just running in the picture and you're like, take that, take that. But a lot to like here. I also think it's a really good production. Like, this is high quality stuff. Yes, it's not miniatures.
But really thick box. The artwork's
It's
great.
very good.
They got their own little custom SAS dice, which are nice. They give you a little cardboard watchtower dice
which
tower.
is nice. Only one play aid, which we always wonder. You got a game that plays up to 4. Put 4 play aids in there because this is important.
Don't do one.
There's nothing in this game that's overly complex, though. Once you get through it, a couple of turns, you've pretty much got it. To be honest.
Really, you're looking at the German, like the
modifiers.
The combat modifiers are good, and then this is something you need to reference. But yeah, on the Kickstarter they have one of those little neoprene dice trays. We kind of just did a bit of everything and got it all.
Yeah.
So it was really, really enjoyable. And there is a lot to play in this if this is a game that you want to commit to. There's a lot of scenarios. There's a lot of like extra stuff to explore. Not like even from like the event deck that we played. We played the same event deck in 2 missions. A lot of the missions use different event decks.
4 or 5 other event decks, right?
Yeah, there's a ton. And there's a ton of like stuff we didn't even see. These are all different event decks. And like Jaeger has its whole own one.
So specifically these are expansions, like the orange expansions.
This is the hot dog one, I think.
Yeah. So that's a deck for an entire single mission. That's interesting.
I think so.
Potentially.
Yeah.
And that's a big mission. That's big.
All of these armored vehicles and stuff that we didn't see, didn't look at. There's a rowboat. There's a rowboat in one of these missions.
Yeah.
Like, there's so much stuff that you have and can do in this as well. And there's also an option where you can kind of just kind of make your own and customize them as well, if that's something you really want to commit to. So I was really happy with what's in the package as well.
Yeah.
But it all fits in one box, and I didn't feel like it was too bloated, like some of these games are wanted to be. What I will do is, I'll show you how it functions, and then we'll wrap up with a few final thoughts. So here's a look at the board. This isn't the whole of this mission. I kind of had to readjust and reset up some bits and pieces, so we're just going to give a couple examples here. You can see it's got these big geomorphic map boards, and the game with the all expansions comes with a bunch, and they're all dual-sided, and they have very different things on them. So your missions will be anywhere from like 2 to 6 of these, I think, is the biggest that we saw. There might be bigger ones, but what you'll do is you will have a little character sheet. This is Jock, and he has a couple of special abilities that he's got. Some of these correspond to the inherent, the built-in equipment that he has. But we'll take a look at Henri real quick. Here he's got his pistol, his stick grenades. He has a cigarette packet that he can do something with, and he has a Sten gun. But each character also has a reverse side. Henri 2, this time instead of that Sten gun, he's got himself a little sniper rifle over here. And that'll affect some of the things that he can and can't do and what kinds of attacks he can make. Jock has the same thing on the back, so you get characters, but they also have dual loadouts that you can choose which side to do. You'll have a couple tokens that correspond to some of these. Some of them might be ammunition. None of these weapons have ammunition. The grenades, he's got 2 of them. He's got this Lucky Rabbit's Paw, which is a token. It's a one-time thing. And then they will have this this target marker, which is to use to set yourselves up for Overwatch on a specific target, basically. Let me move this, we don't need that. So what you're going to do is, on your turn, you have 4 action points. What can you do with an action point? Well, there's a handy-dandy quick reference guide. This is the play aid. There's only 1 for a game that can play up to 4. You know what you did. That's very naughty. If you're standing, you can do these things. They cost this much. If you're crouched, you can do these things. They cost this much. And if you are carrying an object, you can do these things, and they cost this much. Real simple, honestly. That is very, very, very simple. They give you some different stats about enemy attacks and what they can do, modifiers for your attacks and their enemy attacks as well, and the reverse has this really detailed line of sight example, which is very helpful as well. So what you're going to be doing is this is our character here. It kind of just looks like your guy from Bird's Eye View. You just kind of got to remember that. And you're going to move around the board, attempting to achieve your objectives, your goals. So in this instance, we had to sneak across the map, set up some ambushes, and destroy some vehicles and a convoy. But what you might do is you might spend one action to move one space, or you might spend 2 actions to sprint, which is moving 3 spaces. 1, 2, 3. Although you don't want to sprint next to a guy. If you sprint next to an enemy, they turn around because they hear you sprinting, huffing and puffing and stomping your feet. But you could sprint 1, 2, 3. You can move 1. You can move and attack all in one. That costs 1 action. If you just want to stand still and attack, that costs 1 action. You can take aim. If you aim, that costs 1 action. That gives you a modifier. And then you do your attack. You're going to attack at +1, I believe is what it is. And you're just trying to hit your target number of whatever your weapon is. So at short range, you need to hit... short range is 4, and long range is up to 8. So you need to hit on a 5. If you're at short range, you get +1. If you take aim, you're at +1. So already you're at +2 to a single d6. So that's going to look real good. You're going to roll, that was a hit anyway, but if you roll a 3, +2 is 5, you're going to hit if you take aim. But it costs 1 of your action points. You'll also generate noise as well. Every time you use a loud weapon, so anything that's not like a knife basically, you will generate noise. They hear the pops of the sounds. What that does is that turns this stealth marker down 1 pip. So we're at 3, we go down to a 2. If this goes to 0, which can happen mostly from you shooting your weapons, but also getting spotted, or events will also do that too. Then you enter the battle phase. The first half of the mission, stealth, stealth, stealth is the key. You're trying to sneak around, do everything unseen, drag the bodies into the forest. Then they'll never be found, basically, or at least within the purview of the mission they won't be. That way, it's not they're not just walking down the street, see a dead body, and are like, oh no, someone's doing something. Sneaky, sneaky, sneaky. When it gets to the battle phase, it's a bit more of a run and gun type scenario, which is really fun and a nice change of pace as well. But you might go 1, 2, 3, and then you might go. So that's 2 actions. Then you might move and attack. So I'm going to do a move and attack and shoot this guy. So I'm going to roll a +1 because I'm at short range. I rolled a 6, so he's dead. He's only got 1 hit point. We're going to replace him with a corpse. Unfortunately for me, if I've done that, again, someone heard us. That was very loud, so we go from a 3 down to a 2. But also, I have this ear number of a 6. So if everyone who's within 6 of me, like, pinpoints me. So this guy who is within 6 becomes alert, so he's going to flip over. He's got that red icon of like, uh-oh. And he's going to face towards me. And if you look at each of these counters, they have this kind of 90-degree arc printed on them so that he can see me immediately. If I do any other action, what he's going to do is he's going to take a pot shot at me, basically. I don't want to incur that, so I would just kind of... Or I might run. If I move here, then I'm moving out of line of sight. And moving out of line of sight, so moving out of line of sight is a negative modifier. So he's going to take a pot shot at me. And he has a rifle. And a rifle hits on a 3. So he's going to roll 1d6. So he did roll a 3, but once again, because we are, so their short range is 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So I would have, 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So I would have been at short range. So that's +1. But I was moving out of line of sight, which is -2. So I went from this space to moving out of line of sight. So he's trying to shoot me as I leave, and I disappear, basically, because he can't see through this into this. So what happens is this goes from a 3 +1 to a 4, -2 down to a 2. That's a miss. So I kind of evade that. Unfortunately, however, I have been... Oh, that's the wrong. You have to change out your token for this one. It has the same red exclamation mark. When we have it, that means we are spotted. This guy means he's alert. So what he's going to do is he's going to now chase me down for the rest of the game until I put an end to his life. So that's kind of how that works. What I could have done, so that was a bad example of what to do. Let's not do that. You might sneak here. So I did the move and then I did the attack here. I have one more action point because I did 1, 2 to sprint, and I sprinted 1. So did I sprint 1, 2, 3? I moved for 1, so that's 3 action points. My last action point, what I might do is I might do move and attack. And move and attack is you move 1 square and do an attack costs 1 action point. And what I'll do is I'll opt to use my knife. You'll notice my knife has a dash value here. It is a nothing. Doesn't cost any ammo, but it doesn't make any noise. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to walk up behind him and I'm going to stab him. Because it's an assassination, I literally walk up behind him and you stab him in the neck. There's nothing to do, there's nothing to roll. If you attack with a knife from directly behind them, that's considered an assassination type attack. You don't need to roll, he just dies. You just get him. So you just go... And the nice thing of that is, it was silent, so I didn't have to move up my stealth marker. I didn't make any noise locally, so he didn't spot me, so I don't have to run away now. And then if you also think, this dead body is hidden from people who might be standing sentry over here, they're going to see over this way with a line of sight of 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Oh, can he get me? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. This guy can't see me. I'm too far away. And also, this dead body is lying down behind this wall. So he can't see the dead body behind the wall either. So this is my way of kind of sneaking around. On my next turn, I might move in here, pick up the body, walk it into the woods and dump it in the woods, and then the body's going to disappear. But I also might then crouch, so I can kind of creep around just to make sure this guy won't move and see me or anything like that. So that's the kind of stuff that you're trying to do. And then what's going to happen is anyone who's alert, if you had anyone alert, they're going to move towards you until they're in the most advantageous position they can be, which is get within 4 spaces and with no cover between the two of you. That's what they're really trying to do. Then what's going to happen is you're going to do an event. And when you do an event, we have this event marker. So we have this black side and this white side. And it flips over. So we had it on the black side, it's going to go to the white side. And what that means is that anyone who is patrolling, this guy already moved off. Let's say we had, this guy was still on the board. If he's patrolling, the white patrol routes will move. They'll move 4 spaces. 1, 2, 3, 4. The next card, this is going to flip to black. Anyone who's doing the black patrol routes, they're going to move 4. So you can predict the movements of the patrols, which again, I really like that. It's like, okay, you have to wait a little bit, or you have to sneak right down because you know their patterns of patrols. I just love that in games. It's very, it feels, it's quite gamey, but it's also that you did some recon and you know the routes. I really like that aspect of this. If it's in the stealth mode, the stealth half of the game, when you're still doing this, this goes up by 1, which is bad. So we're going to go down to a 2. And this is the alertness goes up 1 by reducing the number. It's kind of stupid. I don't know why they did it that way. Or if you happen to be in the battle side of it, you don't do this, you do this instead, which is you load up a bunch of bad guys on these off-map tiles, and they're the reinforcements who are going to run on. Those are always bad news. It's not great. You want to avoid those as much as possible. But I'll be honest with you, when you get into the battle mode, that's pretty much all there is, and you're just going to load up with a bunch of guys. Every so often you get a couple of these different ones, but the battle side of things gets pretty hairy. But you are moving, you are doing attacks. You'll do an event, you'll move the patrols. And then what you'll do is that you, at that point, after you've done all the patrols, and the patrols might walk into you, and they might see you, and they might turn around, at that point, at the end, is when you resolve all the Axis attacks. This guy's going to take a pot shot at me. He has a rifle. He's in short range, and there's no cover between us, so he's going to do this. He rolled a 1, +1 for short range. He gets to a 2. That was very lucky. 2 + 1 is a 3. So that would be a hit with a rifle. 3+ is a hit. At short range, the Germans are deadly. So you have to keep distance between them or take them out quietly and silently, or quickly at least. You do have 5 hit points. Those will drain away very quickly. You can spend 3 of your action points to recover 1 hit point to a maximum of 4 hit points. So just know that that is pretty spicy. Those will drain away quickly, but it takes a long time to recover those, and you probably won't have that kind of time in these games. By time, I mean action points, basically. So that's kind of the core of what you're doing, moving around, trying to get the guards and the sentries out of the way and achieve whatever your objective is. Sometimes it's running across the map, sometimes it's setting up ambushes, like we said, where it was throwing grenades at all of these trucks and half-tracks that were driving along. Those were really fun. And there's all these explosion templates, and anyone caught in the explosions, if it's friendly, they die, so don't do that. If you throw an explosion and there's a bunch of guys kicking around, which is what you want to do, let's say there's these 3 guys, you put the template over them, boop, and you say, my grenade rolls 4 dice hitting on 2s. So you're going to get 4 of the dice, and you're going to roll, and you hit, wow, that was a terrible roll, but we got 3 hits, and you assign 1 hit to everyone. You got all 3 of them. Why that's important is because if you have a truck, and the truck's driving around, you can roll your 4 dice against them, hitting on 2s, and we'll do that here just to say that we did it. Hey, look, we got 4 hits. Well, the truck has 6 hit points. So in this one where we had to destroy a large convoy, it was imperative that we have guys with grenades, but we also had characters, we had other characters with grenades. We had the characters who had all of the special explosives. We had Paddy with his different explosive bombs. I'm not sure how I feel about the Irishman with the explosives destroying cars. That seemed like a bit on the nose. But there's also fuel barrels that you could pick up and roll in the road and blow those up. That was also fun. So there's lots of ways to be able to do it. It's just you have to go and execute, and it is very challenging to do so. The game came with this cute little dice tower, which is part of the Kickstarter. It's a little guard tower. But we did opt for the extra dice and the little neoprene rolling tray as well, just because the map's quite big and you'll want rolling on either side of it, especially if you've got 4 players too. But that's kind of the core of the game. And when you hit the battle area, or the battle half of it, you just kind of toss this aside, and it just makes it much more aggressive. More guys are going to spawn, they're going to be submachine gunners, they roll 2 dice, and there's just more of them, and they swarm you, and it gets real tasty real quick. But that's kind of how the game works. What we'll do is we'll wrap up here with a few final thoughts. So I had a really good time playing this.
Nothing not to like in this game. I thought the rules needed a little bit of work in certain spots. Yeah. For instance, that convoy process and procedure wasn't quite as clear as I think it probably needed to be.
Yeah, or the way that they phrased something was like, could we have phrased that a little clearer?
Sure.
Or they talk about like, oh, here's all my convoy movement and stuff, but then the things that obstruct that kind of movement are listed under the objects section, which is a fully other different section.
In the rulebook, yeah.
But it's not in the movement section. Mm-hmm. And it's like, cool, could we have called it out twice? That would have been fine. I would have been fine with that. So there's a couple little bits and pieces, but generally speaking, you'll get the rules. If you've played any kind of tactical game like this, here's my action points. I spend my action points. There is a list of things you can do and the cost for them. It's not too terribly difficult, but
yeah.
If only there was a quick reference guide for everyone.
Right.
That would have been great. But I enjoyed what we did. I felt like what we did felt like you were watching a war movie. we were like rolling flaming barrels of fuel down the road,
Yep.
and then you shoot them and they explode and it blows up the Hanamag.
Yep.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's what I want to do in a board game.
Yep.
And we did it in a board game.
Well, and this kind of game really, I think, sets itself up well to do that.
Yes.
You know, you mentioned Reich Busters, same thing. Every time we play that, it's like a popcorn. I just want some popcorn and a big old soda because we're like watching our own movie, creating our own movie. I think with this game, I think there are 3 real elements that I absolutely loved. I loved about the way they explained them. The line of sight I thought was very good. They actually have a really good diagram on the back of the player aid that I thought was very helpful.
Yes.
And the way the AI worked and the soldiers, while it took a moment to get, I thought it was pretty well done.
Yes, it was generally very clear.
It made sense, it worked, and you were able to game around that, trying to do what you needed to do. Really very much liked that. I also liked, I like a game that has vehicles and equipment,
Yes,
right?
Yes.
Because they threw that in, and we wanted to play one of those missions, but that just throws such a curveball on everything that you're doing.
And that's just it. You get so much more of that, you know, that like movie experience almost.
Yeah.
You can run around and you know, stab a guy in the back and hide in the shadows. When that convoy rolls up and they start shooting the MG42s through the walls at you, and you're like, okay.
Yeah,
like
feels
those extra
different.
moments that in just like man-to-man games you don't get. The combined arms in it really like took it to the next level.
That's what I meant to say, the combined arms concept, and even the fact that you had some support aircraft.
Yeah, there's like a whole card for the Hawker Typhoon.
I mean, we could play this 30 times and you're going to have a different experience every single time. And I just thought this was well done for a company's real first design. I think this is a winner. I actually watched Gimpy, his YouTube videos like 2 years ago.
Was it like the prototype?
Yeah, he had a prototype, and I think he did like a couple different videos. And now since he's got the real version, and he's done some more videos. But I just thought when he was going through it, I was like, boy, this just looks so cool. And when you said, we're getting it, I was like, yeah.
Did it look like it had changed much from those original ones?
Not a lot.
Okay. I'm always curious about like, oh, we kind of changed this or changed that.
Maybe a little things changed, but I felt like it looked just like this or similar to this. But yeah, when I watched this 2 years ago, I was like, oh, this looks like fun. We like these kind of games. We like tactical games, pulpy games. I love a good hex and counter war game just as much as everyone. But this kind of game is a totally different experience, and I enjoy that.
And this is also I think because it doesn't take itself mega seriously, and the rules really aren't all that complex, this is one of those games you can play with lots of other people.
Yes.
You can take this anywhere, you can set it up, you can play it with your brothers and sisters, you play it with your dad, you can play this with very casually. I'm just going to set it up. Hey, come and sit down for a bit and play a couple turns. You just learn
Everybody likes this kind of game.
I think so.
Nice dice rolling, little tactical movement, some teamwork. How are we going to work together? What are you going to do this turn? What am I going to do this turn? How do we best?
And
everybody likes that.
There's a lot to decide in this game.
Yes.
I felt like, especially with this second scenario that's much bigger, it was like, what are we doing?
Yeah.
Like,
and at first we were kind of struggling that.
We were like doing some bits.
Yeah.
It was like, oh, and then like one sentry turns one way, and you're like, oh, that like hosed what we're doing.
Yep. Or it can benefit what you're trying to do.
Yeah, he turns the other way.
If he's moved the other way, now you can move with impunity.
Oh, we got a cigarette break. Yeah. All right, let's go get him, boys.
That was also a cool little mechanic.
Yeah.
Cigarette break concept where you could choose one guy that just took a cigarette break, and you could sneak right by him.
So, and that might be like the key guy that unlocks another section of the map because you got him out of the way.
Well, I think the way we used it and I used the ability one, not necessarily the event one.
Yeah.
Because I thought the event ones came up at bad times, and we didn't
when we didn't need it. Yeah.
But I threw the cigarette marker on the guy that we literally both wanted to run in front of to get into the next copse of woods so that we could take him out, right? But there's just a lot to like, and I think a lot of different types of people will like this and enjoy it. I think you can play it, like you said, with non-wargamers, and I think that's a good thing, right? To build that interest and and it's historical. I don't know much about SAS. I know you're probably a lot more schooled on it than I am, but anything that tells the story of behind the lines,
Yeah.
outmanned, outgunned, is always interesting. And I had a blast with this. I would love to play this again.
And the artwork's really, really
Very
good.
good.
The portraits are good. This is the black box. So you actually kind of can't really see the nice artwork they've got.
It's really
But on the
nice.
side, you have this. You get an idea of the vignette that they're going for.
Well, I remember when it came out on Kickstarter, that was the first thing that really stood out. Oh boy, this is a really nice looking game.
And it
So-
definitely is that. So
The other game that I felt had some similarities in it was Heroes of Normandy.
yeah, absolutely.
You know, because it also is a miniatures game without using miniatures.
It's a tactical miniatures game in a board game.
And we liked that game. Now I'm pissed because that Kickstarter didn't.
Yeah, we banked the Pacific one, so.
But I would rather play this one because I thought this one was even better than Heroes of Normandy. That's my opinion.
I'm annoyed that you brought that up because I'm annoyed now.
Well, sorry. I get annoyed all the time when I look at my Kickstarter page and I'm like, that's never going to fulfill. This one fulfilled.
Yes, and it's really
thank
good.
you.
And it
Sorry.
definitely scratches that same itch. for
Oh,
sure.
no doubt. I think it fills that void nicely.
Yes, and it's much more reasonably priced.
Oh, yeah, no doubt. And that system's good.
comparatively.
Yeah, that system's good. I would hope that they do some more of this.
I would love for them to do more because
Yeah.
you could, this like you said, they could do SAS Rogue Regiment North
Africa. Yeah.
They could do Italy. They could do all sorts
Yep.
of things
No
with
doubt.
this system. You could even do, you go for American Special Forces. Really easy to kind of change that kind of stuff up.
Yeah.
So yeah, I hope there's even more to come in the future. But if you just buy this box and this is all you have, you have a
You're gonna have
wonderful time.
more than you're ever going to really, truly be able to play.
So yes, SAS Rogue Regiment from WordForge Games. Check this out if you're interested. Appreciate you very much for tuning in. I've been Alexander from PlayerSaid.com.
And I'm Grant.